we'll hear a true success story from Ireland, how Ireland raised their food export to 13 billion euro. The story will be presented to us by Marketing Finance Manager Declan Coppinger from Bord Bia. Declan, the stage is yours.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for the invitation to talk to you today. My name is Declan Coppinger. I'm here to tell you a little bit about Bord Bia and the Irish food industry. Bord Bia is the Irish language name for food board, so it's Irish Food Board. Bord Bia is our corporate name. As I said, I've worked in Bord Bia since 2009 on secondment from the Ministry of Agriculture. So I suppose prior to joining Bord Bia, I worked for 9 years in the Food Development Division in the Ministry for Agriculture. So like all good stories, we're going to start at the beginning and show where we came from and what brought us together. So you just go back a little bit for a minute, and how we arrived at where we are today. And I suppose just to give a little bit of context for people who may not be that familiar with Ireland, in the Republic of Ireland we have a population of about 4.5 million people. A third of those people would live in the Greater Dublin area. So Dublin being the capital has the biggest population. And if you were to visit Dublin pre-COVID times, you would probably see an awful lot of high-tech industries, offices throughout the city centre. Thanks to the government's policy of attracting foreign direct investment, we have a huge presence. The likes of Google has taken an awful lot of space in Dublin. Facebook employs 4,000 people, and also the likes of PayPal would have the European headquarters in Ireland. So all of these are very welcome industries, but we have to realise that they could pull up any time and leave the country. So the government is conscious of that and is very keen to support our largest indigenous industry, which is the food industry. So that's just to set the scene of where we are today. So if move on to the next slide, please, Michaela. So most of the credit for the establishment of Bord Bia would be given to this man, Joe Walsh. Now, Joe was born in Cork in the south of Ireland in 1943, and his background was he's a dairy science graduate from University College Cork. He subsequently worked as a researcher in our National Dairy Science Research Centre, and then later on he became a managing director of one of our big dairy co-ops in the south of Ireland. So he was steeped in agri-food, and he also had a big interest in politics, and he became Minister for Agriculture in 1992. And he had a vision for Ireland to have its own food brand and to move away from commodity products like just beef and dairy, and to have some added value additions to our food industry. Traditionally in Ireland, what we did was we basically sold what we made instead of making what we could sell. So it was all about preparing the industry for a more modern era. So in 1994, 27 years ago, Bord Bia was established under the Bord Bia Act 1994. And this Act of Parliament, it tells us in legal terms what the remit of Bord Bia is. We're a marketing development agency for food, drink and horticulture, with the flexibility to change and preempt and respond to market needs. We report to the Minister for Agriculture, Food and the Marine. So when the Act was created, Ireland had a meat board, and the food promotion angle of our trade was done by the Trade Department, not the Agriculture Department. So this Act brought together the meat board and the trade elements, and we established Bord Bia. And later on, the Act was amended in 2004, we amalgamated the Horticulture Board, and in 2009, we got seafood marketing activities added to our remit. So move along to the next slide, please. So even today, our remit is very clear. It's to bring Ireland's outstanding food, drink and horticulture produce to the world, enabling growth and sustainability of producers. Next slide, please. So just to give you an idea of how we are structured, Bord Bia comprises, we have a main board, we have 5 subsidiary boards, the chief executive and the executive, which provides services and implements the policies of the board. The main board itself comprises a chairman and 14 ordinary members, and these members are appointed by the Minister for Agriculture, Food and the Marine. The 5 subsidiary boards would be meat and livestock, consumer foods, dairy, quality assurance and horticulture. And each of these boards has a chairman who is a member of the main board. And in the executive, we have a staff of about 150, and this has grown substantially even since my time. I think we were about 90 when I joined in 2009. So we have added quite a lot of resources since then. Next slide, please. This will give you a good indication of where we are based and what our international presence is. If you go back prior, when Bord Bia was established first, and the early years of our existence, we were in the traditional European capitals like London, Paris, Madrid, Amsterdam, Milan. But since 2002, we have expanded rapidly into places like Warsaw, Stockholm, Moscow, and then further east like Dubai, Shanghai, Singapore, Tokyo, and Lagos. And all these, our international presence has certainly contributed quite a lot to our growth. Next slide, please. So how do we go about delivering our services? So if we talk about these effective enablers, these are essentially our strategic priorities. So we deliver world-class market insight and marketing intelligence for the food and drink sector. And if I just take a minute to tell you a little bit about Bord Bia Thinking House, this is our physical space within Bord Bia that provides the brand development, market intelligence, customized insight generation for our clients. If you were to go back prior to 2016, when the Thinking House was established, essentially we had a library and we had maybe an economist, but now we have this physical space that's very bright, very attractive, very creative, and also the people that are in there are very skilled and specialized in insights and brand development. We also have strategic marketing communications activities. So we want to tell the story about Irish food and drink and build a preference for our products. So we target key influencers, key buyers throughout the world, and they are really the focus of our communications. As I said, we also provide strategic advice and an international network to provide access and create opportunities for our companies. We also provide innovative sustainability, and I'll talk a little bit more, sustainability programs such as Origin Green that produces a competitive advantage and clear evidence of the contribution of Irish food to our sustainability goals. And we also invest quite a lot in talent. We have a talent academy within Bord Bia, which runs 5 individual programs, each with a specific skill focus, ranging from international business strategy, sustainability, innovation, consumer insights, and commercial supply chain. If I just take one of those, the International Graduate Programme as an example, we offer invaluable market experience to graduates, and these acts as a springboard for a career in the food and drink industry. So this programme combines on-the-job experiential learning with a fully funded monthly bursary, and they also get a master's qualification through the UCD Smurfit Business School. So as well as on-the-job training, they get an academic qualification. I'll talk a little bit more later on about sustainability, but I'll just move on to the next slide. So we deliver quite a number of benefits for our client companies, and if I was to distill them down, we get them ready to be more likely to succeed from startup to international companies. We create long-term advantage through our insights. We offer a learning capability and we build capacity for these companies. And we also future-proof so that businesses can grow sustainably in partnership with our client companies. Move on to the next slide. So this graph, it just shows you the growth path of Irish food exports over the last 20 years. If you take just, we were at 6 billion exports in the year 2000, 8 billion in 2010, and over the next decade we have risen to 13 billion in 2019 and also in 2020. We often ask ourselves, how did we achieve this? How did we support this growth? Because if you look back over those 20 years, we had the foot and mouth crisis in 2002, which followed on from BSE in the 1990s. We had a national banking collapse in 2008, a dioxin crisis which pulled pork products off our shelves in that same year. And there was a bird flu pandemic, which never was. That's a different story. It was a media frenzy which resulted in our poultry sales being reduced substantially. We also had a horse meat crisis in 2013 and then the Brexit referendum in 2016. So how, we ask ourselves, how did we do it? Well, I suppose the answer is the growth occurred despite all the odds, thanks to the strategic investments we designed and led and supported by the different strategies of the government over the years. Next slide, please. So this slide just gives you an idea of the category of products that we export. You will see that meat is the bottom. The next category is dairy, which is now risen to be our biggest export category, followed by prepared consumer foods, alcohol, seafood, horticulture, and cereals. And if I just, move on to the next slide for a second. So the destinations for our food and drink products. If I just go back to when we joined the European Union in 1973, 90% of what we exported was destined for the UK market. We were very dependent on the UK market. If I look at 2020, there are three main blocks. They're pretty even blocks. 33% of our exports goes to the UK. The same amount goes then to the rest of the European Union, and then the same amount again is our international exports across the world. The next slide, please. So we have also expanded, obviously, our trade fair presence from 10 trade fairs and 0 trade missions annually. We are now participating in 30 trade fairs and 4 trade missions annually. And we also created our own marketplace event, which is held every 3 years. And that we instead of going out overseas, we bring all the international buyers into Ireland and to meet our producers. Next slide, please. So obviously, COVID has impacted considerably on our services, and we have had to be agile and to pivot our services online. We still, in 2020, managed to participate, and we conducted trade missions and trade fairs virtually. I'm sure every organisation is the same, and it's a learning experience, but I think it'll stand to us in the future. Next, please. So, Bord Bia is very well positioned in the Irish government ecosystem. We collaborate with all our peer agencies. We have clearly defined ways of working, and we all report then to the Minister for Agriculture through a high-level implementation committee. So we don't operate in a silo. We don't take all the credit. We work very well with our other partners. You know, for example, most of our overseas offices would be centered around the embassy, the Irish embassy. So we work obviously with our Department of Foreign Affairs to develop contacts. Next slide, please. So, as I said, when the Bord Bia was created, the Act gives us flexibility. It states that we can function in any manner which we consider necessary or desirable. So this allows us to change and to refresh our strategy every 3 years. Currently, we're looking at a 10-year strategic outlook, but within that, we've also built a 3-year strategic statement. So we're also very conscious of we don't lose the sight of our discipline and our focus on good governance, which allows us to deliver on our remit within the resources available. And compliance is a key part. We're very conscious of the reputation of Bord Bia, and we take all our compliance standards in public office, freedom of information, GDPR, state aid rules. All these are taken very seriously in Bord Bia, and we think it contributes very much to our reputation. Next slide, please. Okay, so I'd like to just spend a few minutes to talk about sustainability and Origin Green, which is our sustainability program that we had the foresight to prioritise in 2012 to build and protect, I suppose, our reputation. It's the only national food sustainability program in the world that covers the full supply chain. Now, I would love to be able to show you a video which would bring to life what Origin Green is about, but unfortunately, because of the technology, we decided we wouldn't take the risk. But what Bord Bia has done with Origin Green is it enables our food industry to set and achieve sustainability targets that we can measure, that respect the environment and serve our communities. So it's about measuring and improving on an ongoing basis. And it's independently accredited and verified at every stage of the supply chain. Next slide, please. So Origin Green encompasses with 53,000 farms which participate in the programme and 320 food and drink companies who want to prove and improve the sustainability of the food they produce. And companies who participate become verified members if they achieve certain targets, and verified members account for 90% of our Irish food and drink exports. So how does it work? Well, just at on-farm level, just stay on that slide for a minute, please. Sorry. At our on-farm level, we have quality assurance schemes prior to Origin Green, and we have moved the farm inspections and audits into Origin Green. And at company level, each company that participates in the program is obliged to develop a sustainability plan with clear and measurable targets, and these targets must outline robust, measurable targets which are relevant to the business across 3 areas. So it's raw material sourcing, manufacturing, and social sustainability. So they must pick targets in those areas, and they must plan on improving on their performance in those areas. So it's all monitored, it's independently verified by an international global inspection company called NABIT. And the whole intention is to create a point of difference for Irish food and drink around the areas of sustainability. And it gives the companies themselves, when they go to meet their customers, they have third-party verification of their sustainability. So it's not about greenwashing, it's about measuring the performance of the companies and having proof points that they are in fact sustainable. So next slide, please.
4 minutes left.
Okay, so our customers are like McDonald's, Tesco. They're also setting sustainability targets, and our companies can help them by supplying them with our sustainable products. So next slide, please. So I suppose for many years with our Orange and Green, we were wondering, were we doing the right thing? When we started in 2012, sustainability wasn't on everybody's agenda. But now, 9 years later, we think Orange and Green its time has really arrived. It's more relevant than ever. We see the EU is prioritising a green recovery with the Farm to Fork strategy. In Ireland, we have a climate bill which is setting us on course to be climate neutral by 2050. We have seen youth climate activism around the world demanding action, and even COVID itself has shined a light on the supply chains. And we also know that customers are becoming more sustainable themselves. Next slide, please. So I don't really have time to go through all the proof points, but the Orange and Green Progress Report will give you some idea of the targets that have been achieved and the results that have managed. Something like 11% reduction in energy, 17% in water reductions. But we are aware that, you know, this is only the beginning. We need to keep going at this. Next slide, please. So we've achieved a lot in Bord Bia, the Irish Food Board, but we're conscious that there's an awful lot more to do, and but we are grateful for the support of our stakeholders, and we know that they are quite satisfied with the job that Bord Bia is doing. Next slide. So we have done this really with the support. We've been championed by successive ministers for agriculture who believe in what we do and why we do it, and the value that we deliver. And just to sum up really what we do and what have been the main elements of our success story, I go back to the Thinking House and the Insights program that has been developed. The Talent Academy has really been successful. The sustainability in Orange and Green has also been very successful, and the network of overseas offices. Next slide. So we can't really, next slide, sorry, thank you. But we're not resting on our laurels. We are now, the government has set us a very ambitious target to grow to 19 million by 2025. Now that's going to be very difficult to achieve when we think of all the challenges that lie ahead, and that target may have to be revisited in the next strategy. Next slide. So nearly finished. I just wanted to look ahead a little bit and see what are the challenges that lie ahead, and really it's accelerating urbanisation is one of them, more discerning consumers, environmental concerns, intensive agriculture. These are all the things that are really coming down the tracks and making very challenging for us. But in Bord Bia, we're quite confident that we will be agile, we'll continue to deliver for our client companies, we'll continue to provide leadership and grow the potential of our industry. That's pretty much it. I'm very happy, as said, to talk more in the future or contribute any way I can. So I hope that was useful and not too quick. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Declan, for a great presentation on a hugely interesting topic.